All right, everyone, it is time for the flip through of the first half of the Small Victories that I have been coloring in just about every day, except Sundays. And then I went on a trip and I only colored in it a couple of times. In fact, I didn't even complete one page the 16 days we were gone. So it's going to be a little odd because I had to lift the camera up. Normally I zoom in. So if there's anything you want to see up closer, I do have every one of these pages colored in real time during the daily color, which I color about 45 minutes every day except for Sunday, unless I need to finish something. And then I even have a weekly review that has individual images of each of the pages finished in the back at the end. I call it my showcase. So there's all sorts of ways to look at the pictures close up. So I am going to keep my bird's eye view and just go through and talk about each of the pages. First, the front. We all know I took this on my trip to my parents, and I did cram my wallet with keys into the top of the laptop bag where this was sitting vertically, and it did bend, and now we have a tear. And I am going to let that tear be. I'm going to let the whole book is just going to age as gracefully or ungracefully as it does, and then at the very end I will do some things to preserve it in whatever condition it ends up being. So the first few pages I kept really good notes. The very first page was I went through my sets of pencils. I believe back in March I might have had like 27 sets of pencils or so. And my very first page was on 315. It was Amazon Basics. And for the rotation, part of my rules for this book is start to finish. Going through each page has to be a different set. I go through the whole set of all of my collection of pencils, and then I can restart the sets again. And I started out initially going A through Z, and then after first 2 rounds of A through Z, I then started with a random number generator in Excel, though the first time I went through that I didn't have it automated, and now I have created a spreadsheet that automates the selection of the numbers that I then tie to the pencil sets. So that's how this goes. This is my first coloring book, for those of you just happen to pop in. Very first coloring in a coloring book, long time colored pencil artist doing mostly nature and animals. So Amazon Basics set number 1, kept it pretty simple. Felt I did a decent job of blending and shading. The biggest problem that I have on these first few pages is this. Look at how the glue of the spine leaves this 1/8 inch gap. I think it's the front and the back. It's just the way they did it. So I struggled with getting into the corners on the spine. I got really brave when I did my very first full page. I used Artex. It took me 3 sittings to get through this all, and I attempted a background and quickly realized I needed to keep it super simple, or it was going to take me a lifetime to get this page done. I thoroughly enjoyed the Artex. I used some glaze. I did a little bit of glitter, but not a lot. And I believe I used my jelly rolls that sit here all the time. It's called, it doesn't have a name. It's like Starlight, Star something. So this is what I used here. I could have done a little bit more in this circle, but I just wanted to leave it fairly simple. I even put that same glitter on. I had already colored the stars, and then I added a glitter pen over the top. This was a super challenging page. I think it came out great in the end for what it was. I did struggle with the backgrounds. The blue is a really tough color in this book for whatever reason. So every single quadrant includes a particular colorless blender. And I finished the Arteza on 321, and I believe, because it says it has 322 for all three of these, which means I did some of my coloring with you and then took away some as homework. The greens looked so different when I was doing my mock-up, but when I finally got all 4 quadrants done, I think they all look fairly similar. Even the blues that I picked looked fairly similar. The Arteza is a 72, Brutfuner is the 120 squares, this is the 180, and then I finished off with the Castle Arts 120. And if I had to pick a most vibrant flowers, it would be the 120 Brutfuner squares. Ironically, I believe the Castle Arts Soft Touch, see how vibrant that blue-green is? It is the most vibrant of all the blue-greens, and I believe that this set impressed me. Very interesting. So you can go back and watch those videos. 321 to 322 was this whole page. Definitely a struggle. You can see where, with this fold, I was just determined that I was going to get as far into the spine as I could. Then on 324, episode 64, I did the Brutfuner macarons. They are one of my favorite sets. They just are a dream to work with, and I did a little bit of gold. Castle Arts Gold is next. I opted to do half of this scene with you, and then the other half was homework, so that I didn't bore you to tears repeating everything over and over. I really enjoyed doing an aged or antiqued bronze treatment on this filigree, trying to make it look metallic, to challenge myself. And I did some little bits of, again, I think I'm still using just the clear jelly roll shimmer. I should probably figure out what its official name is. I just know it has a shooting star on it. I have 2 of them here. Does this one give me more info? No. And it's actually no, they're the same. Yep. Okay, so I think it's Stardust. Okay, Stardust clear. Now we're moving on. We're clipping through, going through alphabetically, so you're going to see us go through the alphabet. I'm now on Evazar, the 130, and I partnered with the pastels. The pastels I tend to group with another set, though not always, as you'll see. I kind of shake it up. And I had a limited palette that I used on every image. The only image I see here that didn't get the peachy orange is this particular image, because there was no element to make peachy orange. Love the Evazar. They are a wonderful set of pencils, and the pastel tints did a great job. Then we moved on to another challenge, which was trucks. In fact, I'm going to say this, every single page for me is a challenge, because it's my first time coloring, and in a coloring book, not, controlling my environment with the paper of my choosing or the art media of my choosing. I have colored on all sorts of mediums, including drafting film and pastel matte and hot press watercolor paper, but this is just a smooth, one of my favorite papers to color on is Bristol Vellum Smooth. So that's what this Joanna Basford paper reminds me of. And with the trucks, I varied my colors. I used the Color 120 black barrels. It took many episodes, I think 4, from 330 to 42. So I am still putting more details here because it's fresh in my mind. And the only other fun thing I did is I used a clear shimmery crystal effects. This is no longer available from Stampin' Up, and I used it in 2 places. You can see where I colored the octopus tank, and then also the jars of candy. Then the bumpers all have silver. It's a shiny silver. I believe it's my Signo, Uniball Signo silver that I used. Then I settled down here with Marie's oil 168 I got them from Temu, and I love them. They are a very lovely set of pencils with a very unique storage system of these hard plastic trays, and that is where I keep them, is in the hard plastic trays. And it was very nice. They came in color family order, so did not have to move them around, and their numbering system is nonsensical, kind of like, Color is a nonsensical numbering system. A lot of pencils have these numbers they just throw on them, and it doesn't really make any sense to me. So those I just need to have better resource materials that I create with my swatches and that kind of thing. Plus I have to create indexes that go in the cases. So the front of the Marie's plastic trays have every single number and where it goes. Again, I am still into using my Stardust Clear. I love how these colored. They came out really nice. It's very sweet. Moving on, I believe this is my first professional set of pencils. So I own 5 professional sets, and the rest are budget, and then a couple in-betweens. So this is the Luminance episode 80 and 81 on April 9th and 10th, and it was pretty messy. I had to be very careful. I had already done some coloring projects on the side. I've done a lot of Luminance coloring, but putting these vibrant colors in a coloring book was very much messy, like I find Prismacolors, and so I had to do erasing and keep my hand off, use glassine, and be very careful. But they are a lovely pencil, very vivid, and I used a little bit of gold. Now we're on to some houses. These were my first houses. Of course, I did the house here, and I already knew I had houses coming up. So in order to keep this double page spread somewhat consistent, I picked solid colors. And to challenge myself, each set of 2 houses were done with a different set. Top being Holbein, middle being Prang, bottom being the Spearer Farben. And of course, I had to put that Prang right in there in the middle. I might have moved around the order of these, but at this point I am going from Luminance. See how I have Holbein? I might have not had enough Holbein to do the Holbein in the order, because and I'm not in very good order, am I? I go from Marie's Color to Luminance. Maybe I decided that I needed to get some pro pencils. I might not have determined that I was going to throw my pro pencils in until the Luminance. Then we had the Holbein. I only owned like 15 to start with, and then I did a second order. I found a good deal, a sale, and ended up getting a 35. And that is when I put together this color combination to go with the Holbein, which is the least amount of pencils that I had. The Prang, I have 50. I was able to replicate very nicely, and then of course the Spearer Farben is 96. So I see now some inconsistencies, and I don't know what the scenarios were that made me switch around some of the alphabetizing that's going on. But I was growing my collection somewhat at the very beginning. Love the Prang and how it looks compared to the other 2. They were very easy to work with. I use Prang a lot with my coloring group, and so I'm very comfortable with them. And they are a nice pencil. The Spearer Farben has, if you accidentally get a line too dark, if you're not consistent with your pressure, they're a little bit challenging to even out that color, where a Holbein or a Luminance, if you accidentally go too dark, you can just do your ovals and blend it out. So still like the Spearer Farben. They're very vibrant. I think between the 3 that especially this blue, yeah, even the purple, Spearer Farben wins on this page for the most vibrant. Don't know if it beats out the Luminance, but the colors are different. So yeah, so wonderful fun. Then we switched gears and we were doing leaves. Starjoy Gold, it was their first time in the book, and they were at the time my hardest pencil, them and Prang. praying being the hardest at the time of coloring. And so I see that my blue came out very soft. I actually did make a circle using, I used a metal die from my card making stash to make these circles look nice, and I thought that the two color tones came out great. And I did use Sparkle Pop Gold on the bottom and Sparkle Pop Blue on the top. If you look over here, working on our dinosaur page, there's a lot of gold on this bottom dinosaur, so the Sparkle Pop does tend to get glitter everywhere. I did some clouds. I freehanded those. I do have cloud stencils, 3 or 4 of them from card making, but I wanted to just do some loose, sketchy type clouds. This is a brand new set that I bought. It's an Artisto 72, and it took 3 episodes. I think I did some crossover, like I finished the orange and then had to start the brown. And I thought that they did a really nice job. At this point, I had a whole bunch of 120 and up sets, but only one 72 set at the time. That was the Amazon Basics that I've had for a long time, and then I had just bought the Arteza, so I was trying to make my collection span more sizes from very small to, you'll see where I add on some very large sets that I didn't have when I started this book. Polychromos, this is, I have, my husband and I picked favorites. I appreciate his being a good sport going through, because, you know, he's already heard and seen all of these over and over, and he did go through last night and picked his 3 favorites, and so did I. He feels these 2 pages are equal, and this page on the left is the one that is my favorite, because I am deciding favorites based more on just how it looks. It's how my experience went in the coloring, and the polychromos just were so nice to color with. And the only thing that did happen for these fish, I messed up the fish, and it took a lot of rework to get them finished, but I was very proud of my diligence and making them work for the picture, and the 4 little ones actually came out really good and were my vision. It's these outer ones that I used too much white material, so I had chipping off of some of the white when I was trying to do the lines, so it took some back and forth to get them to look even. And I love my bubbles with the stickles. Over here, these 3 fish, I was experimenting with different ways to do embellishing. The top fish was acrylic marker white around all 3 fish, as well as white little dots. The middle fish is glaze, like a brownish glaze, yellow glaze, and blue glaze, and the bottom is silver signo, I believe, on the fins and the scales under his chin, as well as blue and yellow glaze. Oh, and I see I didn't put glaze on the bottom one. And of course I had to do stickles. Houses. I was curious about using the macarons all by themselves. I say macarons, but I really mean pastel tints. No, I say Brutfuner square macarons. So the top pastel is the Brutfuner macarons. The left is the Brutfuner 120 square. The bottom is Castle Arts Gold 120 on the left and the pastel tints on the right. And I thought all of them did a great job. I played around with making a stucco looking brown wall on both, and each looks a little bit different to my eye, but they both end up with a nice approximation of stucco. I did not even try to do stucco with the pastels. I didn't even have a pink brick area on the bottom house to do brick with. And what else? I did shadowed blue for like a reflection of the blue sky on all 4 of them. At this point, I bought the Brutfuner 520s, and they had to get put in a case. And I am so grateful that I picked for a large set that I went with the Brutfuner, because they are numbered 1 through 520, and they march along in color family order, and their barrels are decent. They're not the best because the price point, isn't there to ensure that the barrels match perfectly, but they are so lovely. I was not prepared to love them as much as I did. So this was my first experience with them, and I did all sorts of fun little blends using different colors here and there, and they just were fantastic. And here's some iridescent coloring, and I used a teeny tiny bit of white gel pen here and there. Right here, only on a few places. I think I decided when I started to put a little tiny bit of the white gel pen that it was just way too small. I have now stopped writing dates and episode numbers for the most part. I'm kind of moving along at a good clip. It also appears as though I'm doing some sort of different... See how we start with the A's again? B, Castle Arts Gold. I might have used the Brutfuner came right around this time, and I might have decided to save them. Number one, so I could spend time to organize them in my book, because they were, the numbers are so tiny. I had to write with Sharpie marker, silver and gold and black on all of those pencils in big writing because it was so tiny, and that took a while. So in the meantime, I worked on these two sets a little out of order and then went back to the Brutfuner. Castle Arch Soft Touch, nice pencils, a little bit more work to get the color payout. They're more of a layering pencil to me, even though I know they're supposed to be wax based. And I used the acrylic, and it was too heavy, and some of my dots even kind of inverted in the middle. They collapsed. So I thought it was too heavy. But other than that, I thought that the pencils worked well, and I really enjoyed the metallic. I combined the Castle Arts 48 plus the Cretacolor 12, and the tactile feel of coloring with them is really nice. They're very silky feeling. If I could find either a big set of metallics or could forego what the finished product looked like, and all I wanted to do was have the nicest feeling pencil to just relax, it would be metallics. Moving on to the boats, we had Evazar 130, Color 120 black barrel, and the Color 180 color barrel. Yeah, so we are going alphabetically, so this must be the second round. I was disappointed in how the 180 color barrels came to me. I bought them used. They were strewn all about in the box because they didn't use any packaging padding, and they did not tape the tin closed. The person who sold them did not know what they were doing, and I still feel, though I had to sharpen extra, a couple of the cores are broke, it still overall is a good set of pencils. And I think this is my favorite boat because I love these sweet little lanterns. I love a good lantern. Now I'm finishing up the final set of colors, which is the black barrel, the same colors as the color barrel. However, the color barrel is the less expensive version that I got, not the nicer version, and the cores are very small, and these cores are huge. They're like 3.8. So I really enjoyed working with the blues and love the silver. This is one of my favorite pages. It would be probably favorite number 5 or 6. Then I used another professional set, the Pablos. I was working on the Pablo detailed review, So I continued on. I used them here, and I thought this was a limited palette, so I used the Pablos here in this rightmost row again, matching it up against the Maries and the Prang. And again, I thought the Prangs did a very nice job. They were very easy for me to use. Again, I'm very familiar with them. I used glaze again on the beetles, on the ladybug legs, and on the body of this dragonfly. I then also used like a wink of Stella. I have for card making, I believe that I used the wink of Stella brush on these two sets of wings, this set of wings, and this little part of the wings. And that is all I did on that page. Again, you can look at each individual video up close, fast forward to exactly what you want to see, and then in the weekly I also have images in a showcase at the end. Top flowers, Spear Farben, bottom Starjoy Gold. No fanciness going on here. I was very proud of my hydrangea combo, which was 4 different colors, 3 different color blends. And then down here, I loved my little fluffy blue flowers. I did not like the fact that these 1, 2, 3, 4 flowers did not have lines like down here really bothered me, and I kind of butchered my attempt at adding lines. But that's what this is all about. It's about learning. My husband's number 2 favorite page. These are Prismacolor. They did a fantastic job. I only don't like how messy the Sparkle Pop is. I hope you can see that. And then over here, we've got gold all over. Between these two, I think I like the snail a little bit better. Now we're moving on to another repeat. I did half of the page with you, and then the other half I colored as homework. My favorite part of this page are the apples. I used Derwent drawing, but I needed to get a little more color support because the Derwent drawing is only 24 colors. So I added the Lightfast, which is a professional pencil. Both are a really beefy pencil with a thick core, the Derwent drawing being the largest at like 5mm. So I was kind of surprised that I was going to have to use these big beefy pencils with these tiny images, but they worked out fine. I did a repeat of the Lightfast again because I only used the Lightfast on certain colors. I wanted to give them a little more of a workout. I took this rabbit, didn't like the front chest decor, the line art, so I thought I would use a technique that in the animal coloring world is a subtraction technique using a slice tool, and you start with a bottom layer of white, then you add a layer of color. I was flicking to make it look like hairs on purpose, and then I further accentuated that by using a very tiny slice X-Acto knife tool. I just scraped the top layer of color off here and there on the rabbit to get the hairy look. And I thought it came out really good. First time I've ever tried that technique in the coloring book. And then we did some fall leaves, the mushrooms. So then we switched the mushrooms, and the fox were done with Black Widow. A new set to me, bought them used. I only ended up with half of the pencils. I think I had 96 of the 180, so a little over half. Loved them. Used a acrylic. No, I think I just used Jelly Roll, and the Jelly Roll turned pink here, so you need to be careful of the different colors that you put your Jelly Roll on, because if it activates with water, Jelly Roll is wet, and you will get some staining. But yet the purple, there was no staining on the purple. Onto my fox. I had bought the Winsor & Newton ink, and I covered all of the fox lines with the white and left the leaves black. So that's why if you look at it and the leaves really pop, it's because of that treatment. And then I did use directional lines to give it the appearance of fur. And I think he came out really cute. I found a really good deal for the Irojiten, which it was a partial set. It was the first two. There are 3 sets of 30 for a total of 90 plus 10 individuals. And I ended up with 2 of the first sets, sets 1 and 2, plus 10. So I am here with, I think 70. And I had no expectations of them. I knew they were a hard pencil. And I really enjoyed my first experience with them. And I have never colored food before. I even played with glass right here, where I added a glaze of light blue over the top of all of the colors that I added some areas that was very filled in all the tooth, but some areas left the tooth unfilled, and that's why you'll see just a little hint of blue in the glass. Same with this one. Then I used the acrylic marker to give it the reflection. So that's my official first 2 explorations into glass. I did not realize I had done those treatments until pre-going through the book and seeing that. And this would be one of my favorite pages, a top 5 for sure. Again, part of it is how it felt to color it. Not necessarily that I had the most successful result, but this whole page looks really good to me. We're now Color Barrel 180s. This was really easy and quick, but notice my gel pen is colored. The staining of the activation of the colors with wet put on top is very apparent here on this whole page, but I still thought the coloring came out really good. Very easy pencils to color with. Artistos again, a 72 set. I loved how all this came out. It's very simple and very fast. Which is good because here I am with this page, and I decided I was going to use every single set of pencils I had. Even using the very last set was a set of pencils I had a very bad first experience with, and that's the Crayolas. So I have not done hardly anything with them until right here. And they were fantastic on this paper. I had to break up my metallics. This is like the 12 and that's the 48. And there's my Derwent drawing. You can go through episodes 142 through 146 to hear me talk about the different pencils and how they feel. I tried to do 1 row a day. And then in the end, I tried to finish because I didn't want it to take any longer than 5 episodes. Then there's the weekly review where I talk about the pencils and my favorites and my least favorites. Now we're on to bonsai trees. Marie's Amazon Basics 72, Arteza 72, and Black Widow still the half set. I had not bought the rest of them yet. And I put gold on my conical roofs in the purple castle, and then blue on this house using Sparkle Pop and Tan Mitt. And I think they came out very nice. My least favorite is the Arteza red. I don't like my pot. I did not do very good on that. My vision did not come to fruition there. Now we have 6 shelves. I worked on my highlights and shadows with a light source. I did Starjoy Gold, Luminance. I had to work on my glass, and my snow globe did not come out as I had wanted it to. I did the Brutfuner macarons. I like how that came out very well. That's the 50, by the way, not the 72. Artex. I really like how my little glass jars filled with the brushes came out. The Color Black Barrel. I did some inking of the rainbow. The rainbow actually had individual lines, and I used Winsor & Newton ink because I did not want those heavy lines, and I thought that came out pretty good. And then Pablo was a nighttime room with just like a night light effect. I did 5 backgrounds and did not do a background behind the luminance because I had already done the snow globe, so I left that without a background. You'll notice in general I don't do a lot of backgrounds, so this was a big step for me to make myself do the backgrounds, and I probably did it all in preparation for one of my favorites, since the red mark is for me. I just really loved doing this bird. The Brutfuner flower boxes, oh my gosh, they're a dream, and they were so easy to pull out and put back away. It was just, you could just go to the number and boom, you put your pencil back. I did use a bird for inspiration, a specific bird. You can go back to the episode to see what bird I used, and I am at this point not putting names or numbers like the episode numbers, so you'd have to go back through that. And Sparkle Pop Gold. And it's, yeah, we've got circles of gold here on my hearts. Hearts, good fun experiment. Castle Arts Gold and the Soft Touch were together. I must be going alphabetical still, and I decided that they would be in these bigger hearts opposite each other, and the Soft Touch comes out more vibrant than the gold, which is, the gold is oil based and the Soft Touch is wax based. Loved them both to work with, though the Castle Arts Gold is a little bit more crumbly and dusty to work with. The left is the Derwent drawing, and this is the Couleur, one of the Couleurs. I don't know which one because I started to write it and didn't finish it. And I did some silver Signo Uniball, and it came out great. This was a big page, took a long time to do, probably a whole week. I felt that these flowers looked more like prize rosettes, like the top of a ribbon, from my days of showing horses. And I used 9 different sets of pencils, a mix of professional and budget. And the one I like the least is the Polychromos. The blue just did not, it seems a little shiny because I do have the light on, but it is actually quite flat, and I could not get more color than that. And then you have like Prismacolor, very vibrant. Even right next to this blue, here's the Praying. I thought it did a really reasonable job, all things considered. Loved how the Crayola looked. We've got Lightfast, Holbein, Evazar, Brutfuner Square, another part of Holbein because that was a small rosette, so I did another one here, a partial, with the same color. I use the same color palette throughout. Spearer Farben, and I was very impressed with Crayola. I believe my favorite was Lightfast. The Lightfast reds just came out really deep, and not happy with how the poly came out. I did trim with gold around every single flower that had that gold, and all of the glitter has come off. I used the black from Derwent Drawing, and I wanted that because I wanted it to go quickly, and that's a big beefy pen with a 5mm core, and it went really fast, and I was able to get it very smooth. And then I used a blue Tanmet glitter pen. Now I have these little tiny circles after all this grand coloring. So I just did some different explorations. I explored pastels with white, was not so successful there. I explored metallic, doing some three-dimensional layering. This was spent the most time on this section. No 3D on this bottom left, and the upper left was just not quite as intense, and I used subtraction with a mono zero eraser, which is a tiny eraser. Irojiten, I might at this point have finally purchased the final set of 30, so I had the full 100 here maybe, and I thought the fall colors were great. And again, I struggled with the blue with the Irojiten, very much like the Polychromos blue. very dry and very hard to make it vibrant. In fact, I never got either of these to be vibrant like I wanted. Artex, I did not have the harmonious yet, so this I saved. I knew that it would have the right amount of individual flowers for me to color each one to see what the Castle Arts Harmonious 72 color palette was. So I sat with you guys, picked out some random 3-color blends for these little tiny tulipy like flowers, and the Artex did a fantastic job. Did not do any background for them. And the Harmonious was brand new, and I just put down the color, talked about them a little bit. They felt really good. Opted not to do any background at all so we could just see the color palette. Oh, we're getting close to the end here. Okay, so we have 4 large jars. Marie's did fantastic, and the white of the acrylic really pops, and I went around and made sure that I darkened my color behind where I had the glass highlights, and I did a silver top. Color, this is the 120. It was very nice, easy to work with, not quite as vibrant for whatever reason. I do not know why the Marie's looks more vibrant of white, the white over the top, but it does. I did a gold, pencil drawn gold top. The Arteza 72, the white didn't come out quite as vibrant, and my blue that I had to work with was not quite as intense, and I kept the top glass looking. Spearer Farben, I did a night scene because I had 3 stars, which led me to make it a night scene, and I did get some bleeding into the color, color activated on the pencils, and so my white highlights are not as white as I would like, and I matched the brown. I made a brown top to go with the brown doors. I love how my Pablo fish came out. This would be in my top 5. I think I've now named my top 5. I don't know if this would be 4 or 5, but it's right up there. I had a struggle with the blue again. Too dry. These are a very chalky, dry pencil in general. Very nice, very vibrant, but they just, they're not as quiet as other wax. This is a wax pencil, advertised as a wax-based pencil. I love this blend right here really well. I love how all of these little bits came out. My color palette really worked nicely. I like the hint of the sun coming down, or light coming out from the cave, as feeling like we are in the cave. And then I, of course, had to use my waterfall stickles on every single bubble on this page. And at this point, when I do a nice page like this, you'll notice I don't write anything on it. I pretty much remember what I did. All right, so now I'm traveling. I'm going in end of July. I went to my mom's, to our hometown. We had to get all of our stuff because our family is moving here. My family, my mom and her husband, are moving to Florida from Washington State. So I brought Prismacolor 36 and the book, and these are done with the Prismacolor 36. I really am proud of the look I was going after here. Was like, you can see a hint of the cake from through like the vellum of the sleeve, and the sleeve is a little bit aqua to match the top of the cupcake. The second row I started with my mom's pencils that she had at home available for me to use. This is Color 120, the first 2. I thought they came out great. Here the first 2 were Brutfuner 180, and the first one here is the Staedtler Triangle 48 set that she is frustrated with because they break a lot when she sharpens them, but they have a really big core and they were very pleasant to work with. I came home, and while I was traveling, while I was at my mom's, I went through all of my stuff, a whole bunch of crafting supplies and found 2 colored pencils. The grand total that I owned from college, I bought them for a project, a red and a green, and because of those 2 1980s barrel Prismacolors, I bought a 48 set used on eBay, and here they are getting used, and they were wonderful. They just don't even feel like old pencils at all. This over here is Hub's choice for his last favorite, and this is Black Widow. At this point I own the full set of Black Widows, and I put them through their paces. They just really are a lovely, vibrant pencil. I struggle with choosing colors. The age of the sets of the 3 white tins, the Scorpion, Cobra, and Black Widow, there are no dipped ends, and I think today that all of the pencils have dipped ends, and boy, it's really a struggle. So I had to do some extra indexing, very clear index in my case before I could even start working with them, because the blackness and the very hard to read letters on them, big challenge, but worth the challenge, because look how beautiful they are to work with. And I do not see any bleed through of color with the acrylic markers. They are very vibrant, and I love how the spoon came out. I picked silver for the accents to go with this spoon that I wanted to be silver. Getting close now. We've got the fish under a house, the aquatic scene, Color 180 black barrels. Fantastic with this whole fish, multicolored. I really wanted to go with an iridescent scale looking fish, and I think it came out great. I used a copper Crafter's Corner metallic marker from the Dollar Tree, and the only thing I wish is that I was confident enough that I could do the lines. I would like the black lines back, but I'm not going to mess with it because everything else came out so good. And then the bubbles were done iridescent, a little bit softer tones than the fish, with a iridescent stickles applied over the top. And a couple of these bubbles I forgot to do, and I just left them. You can't even tell that I didn't color them. Then we have the ducks. Crayola and Castle Arts pastel tints. I didn't want to do one duck one way and then a pastel duck the next. I wanted them to be a pair. I already knew I wanted it to be a mallard because of the line art, and this was going to be the female, so I used the 2 sets together. And I think, again, the Crayola shined. They did a nice job. There are some very unique colors in the Crayola line, and I loved the pastel tints for this soft coloring in the body of the mallard. And then I extended the water to go all the way across the same depth. And I thought that came out very well also. I was really amazed. You can see in the video, which I don't have the video number, but it's very recent, that I'm doing the mallard in light layers as head, and all of a sudden it switches. There's enough of the pigment that it glazes and it does its burnishing, and it went really dark just really fast. It was really fun. Amazing. Who'd have thought that I would like Crayola pencils after my first experiences were so poor? This was already talked about last week. It's 6 sets of pencils on both of these pages. Holbein, Brutfuner Macaron, Evazar, Soft Touch, and Prang. The first 2 were really super easy, vibrant colors, amazing. Soft Touch, a little more work. Prang, not even a little more work. You get what you get. I was able to push a little bit to get like that blue came out pretty vibrant. But overall, for the price I paid for the Prangs, I think they did great. Loved all of these. And then this was done specifically. I did it the end of this week for after coloring class. A person there had asked if I knew about these, and I said I owned them. So she played with them, and now I can report to her what my findings were, and she can see me color. and make a judgment. Now, she already has the Color 120 in the case, and I think this would be a great set to supplement that, and she really likes the color palette. I would not recommend buying them as your first set of pencils. We are now, this is officially 1 page past the end of the book, so this is 41 pages. Now I'm going to flip to the back because I've done some coloring in the back. I won't count this as a full page. I did some experimenting with some blends, color combos. And then on this page, I did some more testing. This is where I struggled with the blue at the very front, where I did the quadrants with the orange, yellow to orange flowers. I graded them. And the winner for the blue background was the Castle Arch Soft Touch. I did 3 different tests, and they came out ahead. A second was the Color. I was very surprised that the Brutfuner were not with the winners, because they are my, at the time that I started this book, they were my #1 favorite budget pencil. And now they share that status with about 3 other sets. Here is a little boat I did finish, so this book counts, this page counts. It means that I have finished actually 43 pages. And I used my whole binds here. When I had got my second small order, I've bought them in small chunks over time, and this was when I had 35 of them. Phew. There you have it. That is me finishing half of a coloring book, and now, probably between now and the end of the year, I will keep going start to finish. I will keep rotating through my pencils so I give them all equal time. I know that that's really tough probably for some people, but what it's making me do is get to know every single set of pencils equally well, and I get to work through the issues. When a pencil has a weakness, I get to kind of play with it and figure out if I can make it do what I want it to do. So do all the YouTube things, like, share, comment, consider subscribing, and color with me every day. Any day you have time free, I color in the afternoons and try to put up my video every evening, so you're always going to be one step behind me. And the nice thing is my videos are up for all time, so you can come back and revisit any page you want, skip any pages that you don't like, and I would love to see you there. Thanks for watching.